All of the management functions that we look at in this entire course are related to each other. You can't manage well without using all of them. But planning and control have possibly the closest relationship with each other of all of the major management functions. So in this unit, I want to talk about that relationship and how good planning makes control better and how good control makes planning work better. Planning sets the goals and control manages how we reach them. So planning tells us what the destinations are. They tell us the route that we expect to take to get there, and then control tells us when we're on track and when we're off track and need to make corrections. Now I want to look at a couple of bigger concepts and controls, types of controls. The first is strategic controls. Strategic controls are these very, very broad controls that look at the performance of the overall organization and its strategy. These kinds of control mechanisms are typically described in a strategic plan. Those kinds of things that we want to track very broad outcomes. This could be the total profitability for the company. This could be the market share that a product gains in the entire market. This could be our productivity as a competitive advantage, the kinds of things that we'll be really, really good at. Strategic controls are typically used by senior managers who are executing the broadest strategy plans. So if you go back to our analogy, previous analogy of a game, in this case a chess game, you have a strategy for winning. You're going to take advantage of some of your opponent's weaknesses. Strategic controls would be where you look at the overall progress of the game. Am I winning this game? Am I putting myself in the position that I planned on doing so? Tactical controls are short-term plans. These are things that need more flexible controls, but also sometimes more tightly coupled controls that are typically tracking very specific actions during shorter periods of time. So for an example, the strategic goals, that's when I get to fly above the landscape. I get to see the view from 50,000 feet. I'm looking at big, broad things that are happening to my organization. Tactical controls can be this slow, painful climb, one step at a time. Both of those together give me control for detailed execution of my plans. I need both strategic and tactical goals, and then I need strategic and tactical control systems to make sure that I stay on track with those goals. So, give you an example. Productivity ratio, output of input. We've talked about this already. The idea is that my organization must be productive to be competitive. I can set very broad goals for productivity, but I can also set very specific goals. So back to our fabric analogy from a previous unit, I could set a very broad goal for the amount of money I'm going to make making and selling my fabric products. It would be a financial control, and it would be a strategic control because I'm looking at the performance of the entire organization probably across a period of more than 1 year. But I could set as well very tactical goals for how much material I'm going to use, how much labor I'm going to use. Am I making these things in the most efficient fashion? Am I making them at a better or worse quality level than I need to? So the tactical controls are things that we would update probably on a daily basis or a weekly basis to change and control small actions in the production process. Whereas the big financial goals, really tracking the same thing, but tracking it at a level that would require me to update it perhaps monthly or more likely quarterly. So if planning and control are not connected, planning is useless and control is not efficient. Please remember that. Planning sets the goals. If I do not have good goals and a good roadmap to where I'm going, then controlling it does me no good. At the same time, I can have the best goals and the best roadmap laid out, but if I don't know if I'm following that roadmap or if I'm reaching those goals, then I'm largely wasting my time. As you do this, remember when you're setting strategic plans, they should include strategic goals and should address strategic control systems. When you set tactical plans, 1 year or less detailed plans, those should include the same kinds of goals, only at a tactical level. More specifics on what I'm going to do. Think also very strongly about how you will measure goals. Measurement can be important, especially for goals that can be difficult to define. For example, if you look at customer service, very common goal. When I'm setting a strategic goal to increase market share, I might say that I'll convince more people to buy my product by spending more on advertising, but also by ensuring that they are more satisfied. How will I know if they're satisfied? What feedback loop will I have? If I have a customer survey where I ask customers to tell me whether or not they're satisfied, and a number comes back, 47% say they're satisfied. Is that good? It could be higher. 57 would be nicer, 67 better than that, 37 would be worse, but the first time I do this survey, I get a single number. I can't do anything with that number until I've continued to track this over time. What I really want to see is that number going up. If it goes up, then I'm getting positive feedback. I'm doing the right things to increase customer satisfaction, which then will lead to the increase in market share, which is my strategic goal. If the number goes down, I'm doing the wrong thing and I need to change something. When I'm defining those measurements, though, I have to ask myself, what about the customers who don't give me feedback, who did not turn in a survey? Are they happy? Are they unhappy? I don't know. So when you're designing your strategic plan and your tactical plans, design in control systems, but ask yourself, how will I measure those things? And what feedback loop will give me those measurements? Goals that are poorly defined or that are difficult to measure can be very, very difficult to control too. This is really the way planning and control work together to make organizations successful and to make managers successful. I encourage you to read the unit for this chapter, and I encourage you to look at the questions associated with this unit. If you're confused at all about the way planning and control work together, please feel free to review this video as often as you like.